Hi, I'm Ellie from NashvilleWife.com. A few days ago, my husband and I shared a video called Lessons in Marriage. We talked about the things we've learned being married to each other and living together as a married couple. I was asked for clarification on one of the points that I made. I said that I've learned not to make a big deal out of things that are not really a big deal. And so, what I meant by that is that when my husband does something, maybe it's a habit of his, he does things differently than me, or it's, a mistake that he makes, something that frustrates me, whatever that may be, I'm thinking to myself, is that a big deal? Is that something that's worth mentioning? Or is that something that, I can get past, that I should get past? So you're really just kind of evaluating to yourself. And so a couple of illustrations to really show you what I mean by that. Now, you have mistakes. So sometimes someone makes a mistake, and it's not always fun to have your mistakes shown to you all the time because we make mistakes on a daily basis, and it's not always fun to be reminded of them. But one example would be leaving your keys in the outside of the door overnight. We've all done it. I've done it. Everyone's done it. And it's not a super great thing to do. It's kind of a safety issue. So my husband did that once, and I decided that was a big deal, even though it's a mistake, something that he probably wouldn't do, again for a really long time. I thought, you know what? It on the off chance that he maybe didn't realize that he did it, I should mention it to him so that he can be thinking, about it. And so I did, and I mentioned it gently, and we moved on. But then another example of a mistake would be like leaving the milk jug on the table overnight so it spoils and you have to throw it away. Now, if someone does that over and over again, it's probably worth mentioning because it's something they either don't realize they're doing or they're being careless or whatever. But if your spouse just does that once randomly, there's not even really much reason to tell them because it's not, it's just not a big enough deal to, kind of make someone frustrated because you brought up their mistake or whatever. But, you have to decide, is that, do you think that's a big deal? And so you make that decision for yourself. And so those are, when something's a mistake, two examples. Now, then you have habits. And so people do things differently, especially when you first get married. You're going to notice they do things totally differently. And I have to decide, is this important to me that they change their ways and, you're going to be compromising, meeting in the middle on some things? Or is it something that, I'm just going to not let it bother me? And, my way is not always the best way of doing things. I need to personally realize that. So one example is leaving your shoes on in the house. Growing up, my family had strict rules that you didn't wear your shoes past the door. And if you just walked in real quick wearing your shoes, it was a big no-no. My husband's family had no such rules. They, did what they want, wore their shoes in the house, didn't wear their shoes in the house, no one said anything. And so, and I think their way of doing things is definitely more common in that specific example, at least where we live. So, before we got married, I talked to my husband about that. He knew that was the way my family did things. And I think he even asked me, is that important to you? And I said, yes, that is important to me. That, we don't make a habit of wearing our shoes in the house. I'm not, super excited to see someone sitting on our couch with their shoes on because, that just is something that it's important to me. Excuse me. So he changed his ways. He changed his habit, which is hard to do, to change a habit, a lifelong habit. But he did. Now, with the same issue, something that is a small thing and something that I decided I'm not going to make a big deal out of is when he, kind of either forgets or just walks in the house to get something and keeps his shoes on. I've even started doing that because I've decided, it's not a big deal to get a little bit of dirt on the carpet. But I guess more of an issue is when he walks in with wet shoes. And, he doesn't do it very often, but every once in a while to grab something. But I've decided, what? He has been so nice to completely change his way of doing things for me and to conform to my way of doing things that I am not going to say something about that. He doesn't do it often. I'm just going to decide not to make a big deal out of it. And so that's what I've decided on that. But, you decide for your own self what's a big deal, what's going to frustrate you, what is something that, is something that you'd like to talk to your spouse about, that you should talk to them about, and what is something that, maybe you should just change your way of thinking and realize that your way is not always best. I find that in my life personally, I get stuck into thinking my way is a better way of doing things, but I have to really realize that, you know what, it's not all about me. And so just making those conscious decisions about whether to make a big deal out of something and whether to just, let things go. Hope you enjoyed this video. Visit me at NashSoulWife.com. I love to hear from you.